Hi, I'm Nazrin Shahnas from Shahnas Intestinal Berhad. We are ID consultant and design and build for hospitals, both private and government in Malaysia. So today's topic will be about creating ID treatment for small spaces within hospitals. Of course, for some areas there are certain restrictions in terms of the width of the corridors or the width and the length of the room and such. But I'm talking about public spaces or non-clinical areas. So what happens is that when hospitals are being built by design, we can actually customize based on our requirements. However, what happened to the hospital that is previously built maybe a while ago? How do we accommodate the limited spaces within the hospital? For example, from my previous project, what happened is that the size of the lobby are being shrunk to fit in some retail areas within the lobby compound. So with that, the registration counter and also the waiting areas are being limited to a small number of size. So I would like to share some of the design principles of or element that we can actually use in order to cater for these kind of limitations. The first one would be create illusions. What I mean is that small areas can actually be utilized effectively and efficiently with the type of furniture that you are using. For example, do not consider link chair as the first option. What if we can actually use single chairs and also modular chair, which is being customized according to the size needed to fit one normal size human being. What we do is that we would ask the hospital management or operators how many packs do they need to be seated at one given time. So when we have the numbers, then we would design furniture as to meet that requirement. And then the link chair would be the last option because we feel that it's not flexible enough. That's one thing. And number two is that I also often realize when there's a link chair, people do not prefer to sit side by side. They usually leave a gap or two. So when that happens, it already taken up the space but not able to accommodate enough patients. The waiting room must also have enough daylights. Expansive view means that it's overlooking a garden or a drop-off area or the facade or something that is expanding. It has distraction in terms of art, for example posters, murals and such. And then we can also use ergonomic chair so that patient while waiting they feel more comfortable. Element number two is adequate lighting. So what happens is that in some hospitals, the lobby design are as such that it has a very high ceiling. Maybe it is a double story or triple stories. So because of it, the lights can't reach to the bottom. So in this case, sometimes it is expanded to the lift lobby areas or corridors. And eventually the whole hospital looks so very gloomy. So an option that we would consider as a corrective measure would be adding on additional downlights, perhaps wall lights, or even having pendant lights hanging from the center of the building. In addition to that, the color of the lights that we usually choose would be warm lights because then it is not too bright for the patient and it's welcoming enough for them. Element number three would be to stick with the original concept. So for building that is being designed as a new hospital, it is usually simple because our architect and ID consultant are on board from the initial planning. However, for hospital that is built quite some time ago, I would sometimes see patches of design. So when I ask, these designs are being preferenced by an individual, whether it's the director of the hospital or the nurses and such. So when this happens, the concept is very much messy. The whole hospital looks cluttered, whereby there's a combination between traditional, old style, new or more contemporary design, and also very vibrant colors. So I would personally suggest that even though it's an exercise of refurbishment, please have an ID consultant on board. Even not please have a contractor that is able to do 3D design prior to doing work at site. Element number 4, do not ignore the flooring. So usually I think those days the element for floorings are usually granite, and the color of granites are very limited in terms of the colors are usually dark green, black or brown. So because of that, when you walk into the hospital, it gives you a very gloomy and shadowy feeling, and there's not enough lighting, which makes it worse. So my suggestion is that if, for example, if we are doing refurbishment, do consider flooring, do consider investing on a new flooring, either it's tiles, 2x2, 4x2, 4x4, or adding another layer to it, which is vinyl. The idea is that if the area is very limited in size, it should have a very lighter shade on the floor as well as a lighter shade on the ceiling. Preferably the ceiling would be white. There are only some elements of colors on the wall and also on the furniture. In this case, we can create a more harmonized color patterns and color shades at that waiting area. Element number 5 is pay attention to the color. For existing hospital and also for refurbishment exercise, the hint for you to choose appropriate colors is actually to look at number 1, vinyl. If you don't intend to choose to eliminate the vinyl or change the vinyl, then select colors for the wall based on the vinyl colors. If you intend to change that, then use another element, which is the wall, to be a reference point for a different set of colors. And these colors should have a family where it's being grouped on. Either it's warm colors or a more cold colors. In order to gel in between the shades of colors that we choose earlier, we can have a harmonized colors, which is of white, beige, to blend in. That means we would have an intermediate color to blend in the shades that we choose earlier. Element number 6, drop off and valet parking. So what happened is that at a selected lobby, there will be a congestion between incoming patients and also patient that is already being discharged, and also their families. So with this kind of issues at hand, I would suggest that we have a valet parking. So there will be another person that is dedicated to park patient's car, and then another service or a place for drop off patients. So with this, the incoming and outgoing flow of patients are more organized, hence it doesn't congest the lobby area. In fact, if some of the garage area or facility can be utilized, it can be converted into other hospital functions. Element number 7, on stage and off stage. We call it as Disney effect. The planning and designing circulation so that the goods and services are not intercrossing with one another. This means that there will be 2 separate areas for services line and also for patient to cross through. So with this, we would have an easy plan in and out of services and also not disturbing the outflow and inflow of patients. Although it's very common for a new hospitals, but for a existing hospital that was built perhaps 20 years ago, this remains as an issue. So we would still suggest that for leave of services and patients that is dedicated to the very end of the unit to be shifted somewhere else to the center of the building. Yes, it is an expensive exercise, but something has to be done for it. Or perhaps we can build another building, a separate building that caters either only wards or consultation areas. So that's my sharing for this week. Thank you so much. I'm Nazir Shahnaz from Shahnaz Interior Sdn Bhd.